Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
The Oklahoma Supreme Court says that the Personhood Amendment cannot go forward, that it's unconstitutional. We're going to be talking about it today on Faith and Freedom. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, Liberty Counsel has entered into an agreement, a partnership with Personhood USA to represent them around the country as they advance personhood. And we represented them in several different places already, particularly in Mississippi to get it on the ballot there and other places as well as in Oklahoma. Now, the Oklahoma Supreme Court recently came back with a decision, and the court, amazingly, did not decide it on the procedural issues that you normally would think they would decide a ballot on, but they decided it on federal constitutional issues and said that the Personhood Amendment, declaring that a person is a person from the moment of conception or fertilization, is unconstitutional under the federal constitutional precedents of Roe versus Wade and its progeny. It's the first case in the country that's actually come to that conclusion. It seems as though it sort of went beyond what it needed to for this particular stage. They really should just look at whether or not it should be on the ballot. But they decided the constitutional question. So now we will be looking at whether to take this to the United States Supreme Court.
Well, it's a setback, but in taking cases like this through the legal system, through the judicial system, there are setbacks, there are steps forwards, there are setbacks, and it ain't over till the 9 justices on the United States Supreme Court sing. And so does give us an opportunity, as you mentioned, to investigate whether or not to take it to the United States Supreme Court, where we know ultimately the whole issue of personhood will ultimately be decided. It does set up a clash between the wrong-headed decision in Roe v. Wade and the scientific and moral reality that is the inherent value of each individual from the moment of conception.
Well, it is indisputable that life begins at the moment of conception, that is a human life. It is unique. It is distinct from any other person that's been born. The DNA is there, the color of your hair, all of that is programmed in with that DNA coming together and life beginning. And the only difference between that, which is so small, and a 90-year-old individual or whatever age, is time. It is just difference in time and development. But certainly that is a living human being. Liberty Counsel, we filed a brief in the Alabama Supreme Court there on a pro-life issue, and we traced through history, pre-America and in early America, up through the 20th century and now into the 21st century, the protections that have been afforded in law regarding children in the womb. And what we find is that there has been historic protections for children in the womb, except for this one aberration in history, and that is Roe versus Wade. Yeah. And that just simply sits on an island by itself, completely divorced from history and divorced from medical reality. And then every other area of law, such as in torts where you have personal injury, criminal law where you have someone murdering another individual, or in estate planning where you have wills and trust, all of those recognize the rights of the child. Many of those areas, the states, are moving towards recognizing the rights of the unborn child. So again, Roe versus Wade is kind of like an isolated orphan sitting out there by itself. It's
a blaring incongruity. You mentioned some of these fetal homicide laws. There's a great example. If somebody comes in and assaults a woman, kills the child within her, there are even federal laws that protect that unborn child, that protect the woman. Certainly state laws all across the country that are protect, and not surprisingly, Planned Parenthood and NARAL and other groups, they all fight back against those laws because they recognize that does represent a threat to this anomaly, this idea that same woman who was assaulted, that if somebody took the life of that child within her, that's homicide. But if she goes down to an abortion clinic and pays some abortion hack to take the life of that child, that is somehow not homicide. Of course it's homicide. It's homicide in either instance, but one of them is somehow politically sacrosanct and protected. It's not long for the world, Matt. I believe that abortion and the recognition of abortion homicide is not long for the world here in the United States.
I think that Roe versus Wade will be overturned, and that then the battle goes back to the states if it just simply is overturned and there's no recognition of the humanity of the unborn child. I think this is the battle like William Wilberforce fought, and it has to be a battle that you have to continue to fight. It is the battle worth fighting. It is the pinnacle of our rights. Without the right to life, other rights are just simply illusory. They're nonsense. They're of nothing. And William Wilberforce fought the battle to abolish slavery. It took his entire life. I think that we need to have our lives dedicated towards that as well. But in this particular case, some people, even some organizations like the National Right to Life Committee and Americans United for Life, and I respect those organizations, but I disagree with them about their position on personhood. They both say that you shouldn't pursue personhood. They're both like these little incrementalist type of things. And their reasons are not very valid in my view. Their reasons are, well, we don't have enough votes on the United States Supreme Court. Well, let's put that aside for just a second. And they might say, yeah, these things could make things worse. Well, let me ask you this. We're killing one child every 20 seconds right now. We do that at about 1.1 million to 1.5 million a year. We've done over 50 million since 1973. How much worse can it really get? Yeah. Under Roe versus Wade, you can have an abortion from the moment of conception until the child is completely taking a breath. Not completely out of the womb, but completely taking a breath, that first breath. You can abort them up until that moment. So how much worse can it get? And as it relates to whether we have the votes or not, well, first of all, you don't know when these cases will ultimately get there. Secondly, they're looking at whether Kennedy would vote the right way or wrong way. Well, in 1992, under the Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision, he voted to overturn Roe versus Wade. So for 30 days, the decision was being written to overturn Roe. Rehnquist was writing the opinion. O'Connor and Souter lobbied him. He changed his vote 30 days into the opinion. He switched to the other side. That decision was taken away from Rehnquist. For the next 30 days, it was written to uphold Roe as opposed to strike it down. At the end of June, it was ultimately released. It modified Roe, but it upheld Roe. In 2000, Kennedy said that partial birth abortion laws were unconstitutional. Right. In 2007, Kennedy writes the decision about a very identical partial birth abortion law saying that it's constitutional, talking about the doctor as an abortionist, not referring to him as a doctor, talking about the women may ultimately be harmed, talking about the unborn child not as a fetus but as a child. We just don't know where Kennedy's going to go. Yeah. So it is not a foregone conclusion that he will vote
not at all.
To strike down these particular laws.
And we have tremendous respect for our allies, our friends who are adopt the incrementalist approach only. I just wish that they weren't working to undermine efforts on personhood.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, they actually work to undermine these things.
We value and we are taking the comprehensive approach. You know, Matt, if you're engaging in battle with an enemy, you don't just telegraph and say, okay, we're going to just come straight at you and march in formation like the Redcoats did in the Revolutionary War and telegraph everything you do. You hit them from the front, from the side, from the back, every possible flank. That's what we're doing here. We're applying the comprehensive approach to protecting innocent human life.
Well, we do incrementalism as well, and
sure.
we bring in we support different kinds of legislation on clinic regulations and so forth. But it goes back somewhat to Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from the Birmingham jail. When he was there in the Birmingham jail and he was protesting certain injustices there in Alabama, some of the ministers said, Dr. King, it's too early to do this. Why don't you allow the newly elected mayor and some of those newly elected individuals to have a chance to do what you want them to do? And he says, that's easy for you to say, but we've lived under injustice for 400 years. The time has come to act now. We've lived under absolute killing of unborn children since 1973. The time to act, I think, has long passed. It's now. Give us a call at Liberty Counsel at 1-800-671-1776. That's 671-1776. And go to our website at lc.org. That's lc.org. Ask for the book, Take Back America. That's the book, Take Back America, and also the Patriot's Handbook on American Liberty. We're sending this, by the way, our goal is to send it to all the schools in the country We now are, there's about 100,000 of them. We are now sending out about 40,000, so we're over almost halfway to all of the public schools in the country. You can help support that cause by going to Liberty Counsel's website with a contribution specifically for that. That'll help us to get that information out. Or contribution to obtain these and distribute them in your community. It has the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and a letter, the speech from Patrick Henry. Go to Liberty Counsel's website today, lc.org.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.